video we are going to demonstrate how we can define a component that can be used in an application that we want to deploy in the cloud. So let's click on component. Here we can see all the component that belongs to us. Let's click in create new component. So for this demonstration we are going to define what is the input distributor component that's belong to the mock use case. Then as an artifact that is associated with this component template is this images that is in the Docker Hub repository for the switch, that is the mock switch input distributed version 1.0. For this component template is also important define some properties that are required in order to start a container of this given type, that is the input port in which the input distributor is listening. This is an integer and the default value, let's say, is the port 2000. That can be then later changed when we add this component into an application, but that will be another video. Let's click add property. There is another property that is important for this component template, that is the IP address in which it's gonna put the frames that is producing. So this is a stream. The default value, let's say, is 155.220. Let's click add property. Another important aspect for the multicast network is what is the port, and in this case is the port 3000. So let's click add property, and then as we are gonna send the video, we are gonna indicate what are the video height. So in this case the default value will be 100, and the video width that let's say is the default value is 170. We click add property. Finally, the last property for this specific component template, the input distributor, the waiting time. We're going to wait until a signal is received, that is 5 seconds. So we click add property, and once we have defined all the properties and the artifact associated with this template, we can create a component. And now the component has been created. We can see it in our screen, and we can attach to it some other element that will be defining, for example, the quality of service constraints that are associated with this container, some hardware requirements that are needed in order to run this container in a machine, and then also we want to monitor this specific container. So let's associate those. So the quality of service constraint, the monitoring agent, and the hardware requirement. For each of them, we can set some of the properties. For example, for the quality of service constraint, we can say that the response time minimum for this input distributor has to be 50. Let's save it. As a hardware requirement, we can click and define some of the hardware requirements that must be satisfied in order to provision this VM to run this container. So let's save those values, and in the monitoring agent we can, by default, there are some probes that are included in the container. We can see here like for measuring the CPU and some of metrics associated with this probe, and for the disk, etc., for memory, network, and other properties. This component, we know that there is an application level probe that is also measuring the output frame, and it can be started when the container will start, because we are interested to measure those values. So let's click save changes. For the component itself, it is the input distributor. We can see here that the artifact that is gonna use is the artifact that we have been defining previously, and the properties, we can see the properties and the default values associated, and as the component is inherited from a Docker container, there is some port mapping that we can indicate. In our case, we are only interested in one port mapping between the container and the VM. So let's indicate that the port mapping that we are interested is between the container port 2000 and the host port 2000. So let's click save. And with that, we have finished the description of a component, and we can use it in an application.